no joke, yelled it in our hall of Starbucks, and I'm just like,
If you don't know who Candace Cameron Bure is, perhaps you know her famous character, DJ Tanner, from the popular 80s and 90s sitcom Full House and now Fuller House on Netflix. You may remember her as what most would consider the token conservative host on The View in 2014 and a contestant on Dancing with the Stars that same year. And she has also starred in over 14 Hallmark Channel movies and specials in the last decade. She is also a New York Times bestselling author of 5 titles, the most recent of which, Kind is the New Classy, was just released. Most of those accomplishments came after a decade on hiatus from the industry. Whether you agree with her values or not, because she's an open Christian and she talks about her faith and her conservative ideals, you have to admire not only her comeback, but the brand she's built since then. Her 6th book is already in the works. She just launched a line of products with Dayspring cards, and she has over 3 million followers who hang on her every Insta story. Plus, you guys, she's a mom of 3. She prioritizes her family. So I know what you're thinking. How did she do it? How did she bounce back after 10 years out of the game? How did she keep her cool when she was on The View? How does she balance it all? How does she stay grounded? How does she stay fit? How does she keep winning over and over again? And for Pete's sake, how does she make it all look so dadgum happy and effortless? I will go into all of that and more, and at the very end, you'll be surprised by some of her answers during Fast Facts. I was kind of shocked at her guilty pleasure TV show. Heads up, we do talk a lot about God and faith in this interview, but if you're more of a universe, higher power, higher self kind of person, don't miss the lessons. And if you don't believe in any of that, like some of my past guests I've had on the show, there are still some great lessons here. Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, I give to you how to live a fuller life. Or maybe The View from the top as told by Candace Cameron Bure. Or how to be the DJ of your success. Okay, I'm done now. If you're an influencer, an author, a speaker, or an entertainer who wants to build a massive personal brand, or if you're just a fan of her, you will love this interview with Candace Cameron Bure.
I'm Kelsey Humphreys here with Candace Cameron Bure, and I am freaking out. Thank you so much for coming on today. My Facebook basically blew up when I announced that I was going to get
Did it?
Yes, the internet exploded.
oh, thanks, guys.
We are so excited. So I always like to go back to the very beginning with my guests, which for you was when you were 5.
Yes.
So you've been doing this a long time, an incredible career, doing this since you were a child and being a child actor. What do you think were maybe the best and worst parts of actually growing up in the industry?
Well, the best parts were that it gave me so much opportunity. A lot of people that are in the business young, or I guess a lot of people ask, like, do you feel like your childhood was taken away? Mm-hmm. And I never saw it that way. I thought I've had so much more opportunity when I was with my friends and I'd say, well, I can't do that this week because I'm working, I'm doing something else. And my friends would be bummed out, and I'm like, but I'm not bummed out because I get to do that. I get to go that place, or I get to meet that person. So the opportunity was incredible. It's some of the worst things. I think it's probably growing up a little faster than a normal person would, but that I think can be wonderful too. But when you're a child and you're in an adult world, you need to learn how to handle yourself, and that can be challenging. And I think that's where a lot of young people can falter because it's too much for them to handle.
Yeah, I know I had a few moms write in, and of course they all want your mom advice, but specifically for moms of ambitious kids who want to do, maybe it's the industry, or now everybody wants to do YouTube, or they want to be a gamer. I guess that's a thing I don't really understand. But what is your advice to those moms?
Well, if the kids are really passionate about it, I think we all want to give our kids the opportunity and be supportive of them. So I would be very supportive, as long as it's coming from your child. If it's your own dreams that you're pushing on your child, that's another story, and that's probably not going to work out very well. But just guard them, protect them, always be by their side until they're grown adults, and trust your instincts and your gut. Because not everyone out there is always going to be looking out for your child in having their best interest at heart. So a parent always needs to be that person.
I love you mentioned instincts, and a couple people wrote in asking, obviously your faith is very important to you. I'm a Christian, I have a lot of Christian viewers, and so everyone wrote in a bunch of questions, but about, especially in today's social culture, I feel like there's more influence. Like it's easier for you to be influenced by not just TV anymore, but by an NFL player you follow on Instagram or something. So how did you fine tune to stay in tune with your intuition, with your gut, especially in the industry? You know, everyone's telling you all kinds of different things.
Right. Well, the great thing for me is that I had a lot of experience growing up. So that was foundational when I was young. And I took a 10-year break to raise my kids at home. And when I came back into the business about 12 years ago, it was so very different for me because I was now a grown woman, a mother. My faith had grown so much over those 10 years that it's advice I give to a lot of people that are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what business or industry you're in, is to know who you are before you go out into it, because the world and the culture will try to tell you who it thinks you should be. And if you don't know, that's when you're going to get tripped up. So I had a very different perspective when I came back into the industry around 30 years old, and I knew what I wanted to accomplish, and I knew where my roots were, and I knew what my purpose was and what was important to me, and set up those boundaries even as far as the workplace and my family and my kids, and prioritize that so I would know that when push came to shove or I had a lot of decisions to face, I could go back to the basics and say, this is what we set up, this is what I know the purpose is, and these are the priorities. So if these are now getting switched, we got to go back and refocus and get them in line.
So great. You mentioned the break. That's a really interesting part for me, because I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs watching, or a lot of people who have like a big dream, and a lot of people who have put everything on hold for their kids. I feel like if it were me, you know, coming sort of back, I would have maybe feeling insecure. Do I still have it? Can I still pull this off? And mom guilt on top of that. It just seems like a lot, Candace. It seems like a lot. How did you do that? Because it seemed effortless. It was like, Candace is back and she's everywhere, you know?
Well, I will tell you, it was a hard transition to go from a working woman to a full-time stay-at-home mom for 10 years. That was a harder transition for me, but I was very happy that I did it. And I grew so much in my faith and as a woman and in character, so that when I did go back into the business, I knew who I was. And I prayed a lot. I can't begin to tell you that I knew that I wanted to go back into the industry, but I was very open to saying, God, if this isn't what your plan is, then that's okay. I love being a mom. I love what I have at home, but open the door, open them or shut them. And God blew them wide open. So I can't even say that it was because I worked trust me, I've worked very, very hard. But when I decided to go back, it was very clear that God said, here you go, and gave me the opportunities again. But within those 10 years, I have worked really hard, and patience has been the biggest key, because I've said a lot more no's in my career than I have said yeses. And I think it's important for people to know that when you do have certain convictions and standards that you want to uphold, you certainly can, but you are going to have to be patient, and you have to have thick skin and not feel defeated, because you'll get turned down, but you got to keep getting back up, and you got to keep pushing and pursuing if that's really what you want. And that's what I've been able to accomplish. So I'm happy about that, but it's not without a fight. I've been patient in my career. So
for me to dig into that a little bit, you talked about turning things down. Like, how did you know, no, this is not for me, versus just your priorities? Because obviously you had some things morally you weren't going to do. But maybe, it wasn't a moral decision. It was just kind of like, should I do this? Should I not do this?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm a Christian. I take everything in prayer, and I take it to God first. But especially when you have a family, that has to work for your family. So it's not without discussions with your husband and even your children, and depending what ages they are. I mean, obviously you're not going to have your 4-year-old make the decision for you.
Right.
Like, Mommy, don't go to work. Okay, my 4-year-old doesn't want me to.
Yeah.
Like, no, take a breath there. Hold on. Talk to your husband, or your partner, and you make the best decision for your family. But sometimes that will also mean that you have to be selfless. I mean, I have certainly had opportunities that that after talking to my husband and my family, we've turned down because it just didn't make sense. And it hurt. I'm like, I wanted that one.
Yeah.
I really wanted it. And it's like, but you know what? I have to hope and trust that there's something around the corner for me, because right now in this season of life, it's not going to work for my kids, or it's not going to work for my husband. We can't balance that. The priorities will get out of whack. Mm-hmm. So it happens, but that's where the patience comes in. You hang in there and just wait for the next opportunity.
That's really good advice. You know, this will pass, guys.
Yep.
You talked about the work ethic, and I was very excited, as I'm sure other followers were, that yesterday you admitted to not being motivated on Instagram. She had a break. She spent it on her couch. So she's normal.
I did.
Yes,
I am normal, but it really was weird. I just go. It was a little weird. I couldn't move.
Well, I wanted to ask you about, so since that is irregular, I feel like most people have trouble getting and staying motivated. How do you get and stay so motivated?
I really love what I do. Mm-hmm. I genuinely am passionate about it. So I'm not dragging my feet in the morning to go to work because I love my job. Mm-hmm. And so I think, but I can think about it in terms of motivation maybe for working out, which again, I love to do. But there are some days where I'm like, I'm just tired. Mm-hmm. But I often think about with motivation, once you do it and you consistently do it, you know how good something feels or how beneficial it is for you. And so I will think on that enough to know that what is good for me outweighs the toughness or the tiredness to just get out there and do it. That is the motivation in and of itself, knowing that I'm going to be happier once I've accomplished it.
Which is just a mind game, reminding yourself.
Yeah, it is.
I love that. We have so much to dive into, from you going from actress to like this mega brand that you are. But first I want to touch on the new book before we get to these fun goodies here. And I had quite a few people writing about The View. And so first I wanted to ask, I think there's this outside of Hollywood perspective that you are like the only Christian and everyone is so mean to you. And it's maybe because of The View and how how things are positioned or whatever, but is it really that bad? And also, you talk about in your book and just dealing with difficult conversations. Mm-hmm. But one thing that struck to me is that you said that you don't get angry. And even when I'm like trying to be gracious, sometimes I just get pissed.
Well, I shouldn't say don't get angry. I get angry, but I don't outwardly express my anger.
It's
in the conversation. And it's not that I shut it down either, but there's a time and a place for it. Anger is a good thing. It's a real emotion, but it really, I shouldn't say it's a good thing. It's a neutral thing in the sense that we all have it. It's an emotional response, but we can choose to act on it or not. So when I'm in those those difficult conversations, I choose not to act on anger, but it doesn't mean I don't feel it.
Okay, good. So she's not a robot.
No.
I'm glad to hear that. But I also wanted to know, I know we have a lot of people who write, or who are watching, who write and want to write books, and this is your 5th book, right?
Yes. That's
a lot of books. So do you have a writing process? Do you have a writing partner? How do you you have another one coming out too.
I do.
You just keep cranking them out. How do you do that? Tell us your secrets.
By the grace of God, and a good publisher and a good team behind me.
So you have it. So how does that work with the team?
Oh yeah, I have a team, and it's funny because in my very first book, Reshaping It All, I wrote that. It came out about 8 years ago, and I was at a very different place in my life because I was a full-time stay-at-home mom. I didn't have a team. I didn't have a nanny. I didn't have a cook, a chef, a driver, anything, right? So I talk about that in the book. Well, 10 years later, I have a team. I couldn't do all the things that I do, because some people are like, well, you've been lying to us. And no, I haven't. Things have just grown. So I have wonderful people that help me, but my writing process It's a little different for me because I'm not a writer as a full-time. That's not my full-time job. It's my secondary or third or fourth or fifth job. So I end up writing in these blocks of time whenever I can squeeze it in. And this particular book, I wrote a lot of it while I was filming my Christmas movie, Switched for Christmas, and I, in between scenes, or I come back to the hotel and I sit at my computer for a couple of hours. If I have my dream, like with the first few books that I wrote, and I did have a lot of time, I could sit at the computer and say, you know, these 8 hours are dedicated today, and it would take a couple weeks and you plow through it.
Right.
My books take me longer to write now because of the amount of things I'm doing at the same time. But I have had professional writers that help me. So I get it all out, and then they help me make it sound a little prettier.
You mentioned finding these pockets of time, and you wrote a book on this, but I thought you might just want to talk about it again on what balance really looks like for you. And moms out there, there's a lot of people who watch too who are moms and they have a network marketing, so maybe they do Mary Kay or one of those, and they're trying to build some side income and help support their families, and they struggle with balance. I know because they write in. So what is your advice about life balance for them?
There are seasons for everything. I think you can do it all, just not at the same time. But I really think that, especially if you're working and you have kids, is to be present at that moment with whichever one you're doing. So it is hard to work at home. I've done that. But when you're kind of trying to take care of the kids or kind of talk to the kids, but you're trying to throw in a little bit of work, it's hard. And so if you can really dedicate your time when you're working and treat it like a job, even when it's at home, to say, I dedicate these 3 hours or 4 hours I have. And then when you're with your family, you put it away. You put the work away and not try to do it all together, because that can get really difficult, and I think it does get out of balance, and it can wear you out.
Is it, as a goer and a doer, which I am and a lot of my viewers are, is it hard to learn to like unplug? How did you?
Oh yeah.
Especially when you went from working full time to then motherhood, like how did you slow yourself down? Well, motherhood is not slowed down, but
it's not slowed down, but I had no choice. It just was like, I'm in the throes of motherhood, so there was not as much to do, but definitely harder working now and then balancing my family. And I have a great support system. My husband is incredible, and he's the first one to be like, honey, put the phone down.
Same.
Put the computer away. My husband's not on social media. He does not like his pictures taken.
Same.
He doesn't want to be a part of anything. So everyone's always going like, we don't really think you're married, or why don't we ever see you with your husband? I'm like, because he doesn't want to be seen. And that actually worked so well for us, the balance, because let's face it, I'm in front of a camera and I like it. It's like fun. I enjoy the camaraderie. I am an extrovert. And so my husband's a good balance of just saying, baby, bring it back. And like, we're here with family. And we've been married 22 years, so we've had a lot of practice, and you learn the rhythms of what works and what doesn't. So if it's all new, just, you hang in there, you try different things, and don't get angry with each other when your spouse is trying to help you.
Yeah, right.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, because it's for the family and for your own benefit me to get out of the crazy for a second and just be. So before we get to some of I wanted to talk about Hallmark before we get to Dayspring, because as a brand, you kind of have these partnerships now, and just Hallmark, it's just like hit after hit, all this amazing stuff. Yeah. How did that happen? How do you keep a relationship like that healthy and going for so many years?
You get high ratings. That's how you get it.
Great writers, great producers, great sets, great actress, just everything great. The end. Great advice for everyone.
I have loved, I do truly have a partnership with Hallmark at this point in my relationship with them. So it was like getting cast in a movie and did one, but it did very well, the very first one that I did. And I did a few more and they did very well. And so it's our brands line up, and that's why I've loved working with them, because they are all about family values. They are wholesome entertainment. You are not going to be surprised or nervous to have your children watching it. And every choice that I've made in my career is to line up with brands or networks or producers, projects, whatever it's been, that fall in line with those things. So that's been an intentional career choice on my part. And so Hallmark has been a wonderful partner. And at this stage, I've been working with them for 10 years now, but now I have my production company. So all of the movies that I do, I produced and star in them, but it's a bigger relationship than, you know, the Christmas movie you see every year or the mystery series that I have on there. There's more behind the scenes, and it's been incredibly wonderful.
How does that change when you have the production company and you then become producer?
Well, I get to make a lot more decisions and have a lot more creative say and control in everything that I do, which Hallmark, I trust them. They would never make decisions that are outside of that, but I've been working a really long time, so I was never satisfied just being an actress. I love being an actress, but there's so much more
It's a hard word.
I'm not going to say that word. Entrepreneurial.
You said
oh my
it. There
goodness.
You go.
Spirit in me that I've been doing for a long time. So I've wanted to grow my career in other arenas.
Like Dayspring.
Like Dayspring, like writing.
So cute. In a world divided, multiply kindness. That has little X's. This stuff is so cute. How did this happen?
Well, so based on my new book, Kind is the New Classy, I wrote that, and then I have developed a partnership with Dayspring. And this is the very first launch, and this is just a very small collection.
Yes, this is a small piece.
A small piece of what's to come with Dayspring. So this coincides with my book. So we have all these products about kindness, and it's just a way to spread the word and be a reminder. We have little scripture card shareables and beautiful thank you notes and phone cases. I have it on mine, and t-shirts and all that. So it's from paper products to home goods.
Okay, so now we have to talk about what's really important. Boris.
Okay.
This is my Jake.
Oh!
I know. Not very many people have and love Rottweilers, I feel like. I mean, he is the sweetest. I feel bad because this is an old photo and my daughter's not in it. So I just gave her a family photo without my child in it. But it's the cutest picture of Jake because he's smiling.
It is.
So anyways, but
cute.
really what I wanted to ask about was Instagram, and now you're growing your brand, and do you have a social media team? Do you feel pressure to keep up? How do you decide what to post, what not to post? What's your social media strategy? Because I feel like you're amazing at it.
Thank
and it
you.
seems effortless, and everyone's obsessed with your stories, but I just wondered how you handle that on your end.
It's actually been a surprise to me. So I handle 98% of my social media. I do have someone that when it's work related, like, oh, a movie's coming out, they'll post that for me. But other than that, I do all of my own social media, and I love engaging with the fans. It helps me learn who my audience is and what they like and what they don't like. Not that I'm going to please everyone. Trust me, I threw that out the window like a long time ago. So I'm going to do what's right for me, but I like the feedback as well. And so, but the Insta stories, I've had so much positive feedback from that, and I don't know why it's resonating with people, but that's just me being me. I'm not strategic about it. I don't have a plan. I'm just living my life and including people in certain aspects of it.
Which is a great lesson. And I also just want to throw out, everyone was also obsessed with Busy Phillips' Insta stories, and she just got her own talk show.
Yes.
So we wanted Candace to have her own talk show. Okay, so last few questions as we wrap up. I just want to know, what is success to you, and how would you, what's your number one piece of advice? How did you find, this is what I'm going for, this is my goal, this is success to me, and what's your advice for other people to do the same thing?
I can talk about success in terms of business, but that's not ultimate success for me.
True.
So my ultimate success is my relationship with God and my family. I want to leave a legacy with my family. And so that's what's most successful. And I can talk about business aspects and success, which I feel like I've been successful, but the truth is, and here's the advice in it, I let go of it. I'm a very motivated person, and I'm a really hard worker, and I will give 100% to everything I do. But I had to let go of the control of it. And so that again comes into a faith aspect of saying, I'm here for you, God. However you're going to use me, I'm available. But I don't want my own will and desires to supersede what you have for me and try to make it happen out of your control. And of course, God's God. He's going to do whatever he wants, like whether I want it or not. But I think that's where I take the pressure off of success. And I think you'll find with a lot of people, success comes in that form when you let go of controlling every single aspect of it, but being fully present and available to do what you want to do and work your butt off for it.
Do you find, so from a practical, like I'm trying to think about this for myself, because I feel like I'm still pretty much a control freak. And
I am too. It's a daily struggle.
And I mean, we want things, we're driven,
Yeah.
we're pushing, we're go, go, go. So do you find that that's kind of, you know what you want, and then you just pray about it and then go through doors that open? Is that kind of?
It's both. I mean, I'm very prayerful in everything that I do. But again, praying, we start there, but we still have to get up and go do it.
Right.
We can't just wait and sit and do absolutely nothing. So it's praying about it, but certainly walking through those doors. But for me, when those doors close, I know that's because God's closed them when I'm prayerful through it. And same with whether they open or not. But you also, it's listening to your intuition.
So tell us, what is your next pursuit? What's the next big thing coming up for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a lot. So this is just the start. There's a bunch of stuff and I can't even tell you. But another bucket list thing is that I'm directing my first episode of Fuller House this season.
Oh, fun.
So I kind of just have a bucket list and I just keep trying everything. I think that's another important characteristic to success is to not allow fear to get the best of you. So I'm kind of scared out of my mind to direct, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to try it and you never know. And so fear stops so many of us. And, but sometimes you got to push through and do it. So I'm trying that. That's going to be a new big step for me.
I just have to know, on a hustle day, what is an average day like for you? You have like 80,000 projects going at a time. What does it look like? Is it like you have crazy weeks and then you have off weeks, or?
Kind of not. I took off the month of December this past year, and that was my first significant 4-week break in 3 years because I don't think I stopped working for 3 years every day.
Yeah, and is that like nuts. 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.? What is that?
Longer days because in the business, yeah, and it depends what I'm doing because my Fuller House schedule will be very different from my Hallmark schedule. Hallmark, you're doing 15-hour days, 6 days a week. And Fuller House, I have this great 4-day week schedule. And I do come in from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on a couple of days and then 9 o'clock some of the other days. But it's a grind. I mean, and I pretty much work out every morning because it gets my day going. And I push through it. And I have wonderful people around and a team that help me with the things that I don't have to do myself, which trust me is a whole other thing to let go of that.
Yep.
They're like, Candace, you don't have to book all your own airline flight, like your flights. You don't have, we can do that for you. And I'm like, but I can find the best price.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been so great. We will be right back after this with Fast Facts.
All right, guys, I know there's a lot that we didn't get to cover in that short interview. So I have some more coming up for you from my research, her interviews, her books, other stuff that I've watched and listened from her. So that's coming up. But first, I wanted to ask you, if you're enjoying this interview, if you would show some love. You could give it a thumbs up. You can take a screen grab and give me a shout out on Instagram. You can share it with a friend who you know will love it. The Kelsey Show is brought to you totally free for 2 reasons. One,
I work my face off as a motivational entertainer. I'm an international keynote speaker. You can actually book me to speak at your event, your conference, your meetup, your book club, your kid's baptism. I'm here for it. Just go to kelseyhumphreys.com. There's a link there on the homepage. And two, viewers like you who support me by buying my books and limited edition swag and all that kind of stuff that can be found on the shop page. Again, just go to kelseyhumphreys.com and you'll find it there. Let's get to the goods on how we take insights from such a super successful person and apply it to our, everyday lives. So here are my top few keys to success for the rest of us
from my interview with Candace Cameron Bure. Number 1, figure out who you are. Guys, you can't have guiding principles and become aligned and feel like everything's coming into place for you if you don't know what you want, who you want to serve, how you want your life to look. For advice on how to figure out things about yourself and become more self-aware, check out my other interview with Gretchen Rubin. We talked about that a lot. So figure out who you are in order to do number 2, which is to determine your priorities and let them be your guide. Find your lines that you won't cross. Find your key standards in life and stick to them. Number 3, take risks. Guys, she was barely back on the scene and she decided to go on The View, which obviously took her visibility to the next level, but that was a risk. I mean, that is a risky show to go on. There's always press about whatever the host said the next day, and of course she was in the minority most of the time. Plus, by doing that, she put herself as sort of a Christian poster child in Hollywood, which is a lot of pressure. But the risks paid off for her, so don't be afraid to take risks, and remember what she said later on in the interview about how you cannot let your fears hold you back. Number 4, be patient. I love how she talked about the temptation to sell out. No matter what you're doing, you guys, what your career, what your goals, we all have the temptation to sell out over and over and over again. And instead, we have got to choose to stick with our convictions. Number 5, think seasons, not balance. This is another one that a lot of my guests talk about, especially moms. If you are a mom trying to get your life together, or if you're trying to build a business, go to kelseyhumphreys.com/mompreneur, and there's all of my mom interviews in one spot. But again, guys, you can't think about having balance. Balance does not exist. Instead, think about seasons. Number 6, take ownership of your career. When things started gelling with Hallmark, she decided to become a bigger partner with them. So maybe you can ask for a bigger stake in whatever you're working on at your job. Maybe you could go for the promotion, take more responsibility. Maybe you could launch your own business or build your own personal brand alongside of your career like she has done. Number 7, learn to let go. Oh boy, this is a hard one for me, but I am really learning to embrace an abundance mindset, which is what she talked about when she said she would have to turn things down and just trust that what was meant for her would be around the corner. So if you are a struggling control freak, like a lot of driven people are, try and figure out how to let go of some of that. A great interview resource on this specific topic is my conversation with Devon Franklin. You can go to kelseyhumphreys.com/Devon Franklin to watch that one. Number 8, stay authentic. Guys, she is herself because 1, she figured out who she is, but also she's just doing her. And I think that's key to her success. Number 9, stay grateful. This comes up over and over again. These successful people have a gractus. That's a gratitude practice. So find something you can do every day to stay grateful. For her, she talked about being grateful for all the different things in her life throughout the interview. So that is important to success, to staying grounded and enjoying the journey. Now, some of the things we didn't cover: how does she stay fit? What are her health habits? Obviously, you guys, she is holding herself to a higher standard than most of us, because she explained in one article that if you look a certain way on TV in one show, they expect you to look that way for your next job and your next job forever. So she has to maintain her figure, which pushed her to have an eating disorder in her late 20s, which you can read about in her past books. Now, shocker, she eats very clean, mostly vegan except for some eggs and fish, no dairy, but I do see her post about dark chocolate every so often, so she must have some cheats here and there. Guys, she works out for an hour, 5 days a week if her schedule allows, and that includes cardio and HIIT training, and she also does intense 2-hour workouts with her trainer friend, Kira Stokes. I hope you are encouraged by this like I was, because guys, we cannot expect to look like celebrities unless we're putting in that level of commitment. And from all of my interviews and also doing it in my own life, I have learned that it's pretty simple. Exercise is amazing for mental clarity, and health happens mostly in the kitchen. Okay, hopefully you caught on to this, but how does she keep winning again and again and again? I think again it goes back to her being so firm in who she is, but also she's willing to be vulnerable. She keeps up with social media. She stays relevant. She's responding to people. She's doing her own social, and she's showing her real life in Insta stories, where she could easily just keep that wall up and just do her acting. And instead she's letting people in, which has led to bigger projects and partnerships because we live in a social media world. And lastly, how does she make it all look so dadgum happy and effortless? Guys, because it's real. She is herself. She is doing what she loves. She is living in her calling. She knows who she is, what she wants, where she's going next. And that just brings a peace and an ability to totally be authentic in all things. So again, go back to number one if you feel like you're struggling and if you feel like you're putting in so much effort and nothing is working out for you. All right, now let's learn some fun, trivial, real life things about my guest.
All right, we are back. We're gonna do fast facts. This is just try and answer as quick as you can. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Starbucks order?
An Americano with a touch of almond milk.
No stevia, no.
Nope.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
What kind?
Bure family wines.
Oh, of course. Hashtag duh. Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Scrabble or charades?
Charades.
What is the wallpaper on your phone?
Oh, the wallpaper? So that's the inside. That's
Well, when you're like
on the screen. It's a picture of me and my husband, Val. at the beach.
What is the last thing you remember Googling?
Bathing suits in the car ride over here. We were Googling bathing suits.
It's that time.
Yep.
Read some book you read.
I'm reading 2 books right now. I'm reading Untangled, which is about raising teenage daughters. It's great. And another book called Walking with God by John Eldridge.
Favorite book of all time other than the Bible?
Goodness.
I know, honestly, I don't think I can answer that.
So many good ones.
Okay.
Pilgrim's Progress. I think that one's probably my favorite. Or Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers.
Ooh, Redeeming Love is up there for a lot of people. One word you're guilty of saying too often.
Dude.
I don't think you said that once during this interview.
I usually don't in my interviews,
Yeah.
but in my real life, I call everyone dude. They're like, they just seriously called me dude.
Who is the last person that you called or texted?
My daughter, Natasha. You need to pick up your brother from school.
Last awkward situation you were in?
I know, Starbucks. Starbucks.
Got some people off camera giving some notes here.
It's Starbucks on the way over here because the ladies behind the counter recognized me,
Of course.
and then they get a little stunned, and they're like, "Oh, you're," and then the guy behind us in line went, "Candace Cameron from Fuller House!" Like literally, no joke, yelled it in all of Starbucks, and I'm just like, I just want to crouch
Do
down.
you feel like you can never go anywhere? Does that happen a lot in LA?
It happens a lot, which is fine, but most people are more chill about it. So when they're just like, "Hey, I love your show," or "Hey, are you Candace," or whatever, but when someone is really loud and then announces it, to the whole place, it's embarrassing. So that was a little
That is awkward.
embarrassing.
Last vacation you took?
I was just in Switzerland with my husband.
Hobby? If you have one.
Shopping, is that a hobby?
It can be. I feel like it can be. What is a bad habit you're trying to break?
I think putting my phone down more often. I think I'm working on that one.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip,
Guilty pleasure TV show?
Game of Thrones.
So good. That doesn't matter.
It's not really guilty
there's a lot
pleasure,
of
but
nudity.
yeah.
I know.
But it's so good.
I know.
It's so
just
good.
Can't stop. Favorite snack?
Macadamia nuts.
Favorite cereal?
I don't eat cereal. Maybe
I think
Cheerios
I'm gonna
if
have
I
to cut
back
this
in the
question
day.
because no one
I
who's
don't
eating
eat
carbs.
cereal. Right,
No one's eating
right.
cereal anymore. Why? This should
I
be on
don't eat
there.
cereal.
I retract that question.
Maybe granola on occasion.
Your biggest pet peeve?
Whistling.
What would your husband say is his biggest pet peeve that you do?
Cracking my knuckles.
And your favorite music right now? What is Candace Cameron Bure's jam?
John Mayer just released a single yesterday.
Awesome.
Love him.
Okay, well this
Love
has
his
been
music. Sorry, love his music. I'm
Just
not
to clarify.
obsessing about John Mayer himself. It's the music.
I love it. Well, this has been so fun and so awesome. You guys definitely go pick up the new book and check out all of her new stuff with Dayspring. That is seriously so cute. You're gonna love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was wonderful.